I'm Dr. Andrea Warchowski. I'm a licensed psychologist who specializes in neuropsychology. I've had the privilege over the last couple of years of working with advanced heart and lung disease patients. So I've worked from the onset of the diagnosis of pulmonary fibrosis all the way to the end stages of life. I've also worked with candidates of transplants, recipients, and perhaps non-candidates. Over the years, I have witnessed the ups and downs that this disease can bring about for yourself as well as for your families. As all of you know, it's not an individual process, but it really affects your family, your caregiver, and your whole support system. Anxiety is generally caused by the persistence and excessive worry, even without a stressor present. Some things that I've seen over the years that patients oftentimes come to me with is thoughts and feelings of uncertainty, what's going to happen to them, what's going to happen to their families, the decline of their lung capacity and their functioning. Some of you over time may have been able to live well-balanced and active lives, and all of a sudden, on the turn of a dime, you're incapacitated or really struggling to get up from the couch and even move to the refrigerator. This decline can be really debilitating for a lot of people. Some of the physiological and psychological symptoms associated with anxiety can be feeling restless, wound up, or on edge, being easily fatigued, having difficulty concentrating, feeling irritable, having headaches, muscle aches, stomach aches, or even unexplained pains. You can have difficulty controlling the feelings of worry, having sleep problems such as difficulty falling or staying asleep, or even when you're asleep, you might feel restless and it might feel unsatisfying. You might experience a racing heart or chest discomfort. You might experience trembling, nausea, dizziness, hot or cold flashes, sweating, lump in your throat, choking, feeling confused or disoriented, a numbness or a tingling sensation, shallow or rapid breathing. Living with pulmonary fibrosis, as many of you know, is that the world doesn't stop outside of your diagnosis. So on top of the stress that you're already under in your normal lives, you also have additional pressures and stressors or uncertainties associated with pulmonary fibrosis. So those stressors can impact us in ways to where then additional symptoms might be brought about that cause anxiety. At times, patients will ask me how their disease and their quality of life will be impacted if they're struggling with anxiety on top of everything else that they're already struggling with. And that's an understandable and a scary thing to think about. So one avenue that I try to always normalize and bring the patients back to is that at a baseline, you guys already have a difficult time breathing, right? And so that sometimes induces this alarm in our brain that sends it into panic. And if we don't know how to deal with that, or that's even a thing, then we might be sent into a panic attack. And that's one of the things that I have worked with patients over time, of being able to understand and being able to cope and work themselves through, even when they have a difficult time breathing. There are several things that you can do to aid with these symptoms of panic. And so whenever we want to decipher whether somebody's having a panic attack, it's a brief period that can last from about 5 to 30 minutes, where it feels like it came out of nowhere and you can't breathe and everything has just stopped in its tracks. You may even feel paralyzed whenever this happens, or like a choking sensation or a lump in your throat. You might experience trembling and other physiological symptoms. And it can also feel like this wasn't related to anything. However, generally in our mind, there's something that's triggered that panic. It can be worries about something that can happen or is going to happen, the anticipation of a procedure or a really frightening medical appointment that you might have coming up. Also, it can be about something that's happened in the past. I'm asked if psychology is common in the population of pulmonary fibrosis. Well, at a baseline, if we just think about the inability to breathe, that's naturally going to bring about this alarm bell that sounds off in our body and it sends it off into the brain. And so about 60% or more of patients that have been diagnosed with pulmonary fibrosis have also a comorbidity of experiencing anxiety symptoms. Now, the difference of being diagnosed with an anxiety disorder or just experiencing anxiety symptoms generally has to do with the frequency and duration and how many settings that this is impacting your life. So a little bit more about what I mean about that is that each and every one of us experiences anxiety. It's a motivating factor, right? However, when it becomes debilitating to the point where it's impacting our thought process, we have a difficult time experiencing and controlling our worry and getting those thoughts out of our mind. And then in addition to that, it can be debilitating to go and engage in activities. So we might also start to avoid certain things. Now, what's difficult about that with pulmonary fibrosis is that there's a lot of activities that either decline or go away with the disease. And so avoiding those as reminders also has to do with anxiety. If you're seeking additional resources, there is a great clinical trial available through Vicore companion study. It uses a cognitive behavioral therapy to help you manage the symptoms of anxiety. It's going to ask you to participate for about 10 minutes daily. However, you can also go at your own pace. Some of the benefits of participating in this clinical trial may be that it offers you the space and time to go at your own pace. It also allows you to create new tools and manage everything within this application. So there's a journal component. There's also processing different coping skills. As somebody who works with pulmonary fibrosis patients, I went and trialed the app myself to see if it's something that I could even use if I didn't have an advancing lung disease. And I found it really beneficial. It kind of stores everything in one place. It allows you to return to it as you would like to. And let's say you're not feeling well that day, it allows you to return to it whenever you're ready. You know, over the last decade of working with complex trauma cases and in a variety of different psychological settings, individuals with pulmonary fibrosis are some of the most resilient people that I've ever worked with. And it's been such a privilege. I have an immense amount of gratitude working with you and learning from you as well. My hope in engaging in this app and that it provides you an additional resource to your own mental health is that it gives you a segue of being able to deal with your own issues at your own pace and on your own time. You know, that's a very common question that I receive is the inability to breathe because you physically can't breathe, right? And that's debilitating. And then not knowing whether or not you're having symptoms of anxiety or symptoms related to pulmonary fibrosis. The simple answer is both, right? So if you physically can't breathe, that sends signals to our brain that lets us know that we might be in danger. So it's sending off these signals or these alarm bells in our brain that kind of let us know, hey, I might need to help myself breathe. As somebody who works with pulmonary fibrosis patients, I went and trialed the app myself to see if it's something that I could even use if I didn't have an advancing lung disease. And I found it really beneficial. It kind of stores everything in one place. It allows you to return to it as you would like to. It is time efficient. And let's say you're not feeling well that day, it allows you to return to it whenever you're ready.